This town isn't big enough for 2 supervillains.
Oh, you're a villain, all right. Just not a super one.
Yeah? What's the difference?
Presentation!
What makes a good villain? And who are the greatest villains of all time? Joker, Darth Vader, Lex Luthor, Bane, the T-1000, Hannibal Lecter.
Kaiser Söze!
What makes them villains? And what makes them so memorable? On close inspection, these villains have the character traits we wish we had when carrying out our New Year's resolutions. They are confident and smart, determined and decisive. They show superhuman poise and are cool under pressure. They are meticulous planners, strong and capable. And most importantly, they are consistent. They do not change their ideals. They follow up on their plans to an eventual conclusion. No procrastination, no doubt, no hesitation. They exemplify all that we would consider to be the traits of a role model, with the exception of one thing, their diabolical goal. This is what separates them from being good. They use their positive traits for an evil end. So what about V in V for Vendetta and Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption? Could they also be listed as villains? On close inspection, they share most of the traits of a superior villain. They are confident and smart. They are determined and decisive. They have poise and are cool under pressure. They are meticulous planners, strong and capable, and most importantly, they are consistent. But unlike a diabolical villain, they are good in the eyes of the audience. We see them as the good guys despite the fact that one is blowing up government buildings and the other is trying to escape from prison. V for Vendetta is a movie set in a dystopian future where the USA has collapsed and is an old shell of its former self. England is ruled by an overzealous, pious and corrupt Adam Sattler. All forms of personal freedom have been removed, until V steps up, blows up the old baby, and incites the people to rise against their government by showing up to help him blow up Parliament building as a symbolic taking back of their country from the hands of a tyranny. What follows is an arduous journey of fear, risks, and torture that forces Evey to change from a timid young woman to a badass vigilante. On the other hand, we have Shawshank Redemption, a 1994 film about Andy Dufresne, a man wrongly imprisoned for the murder of his wife and her lover. The prison is run by a warden who shares a lot in common with Adam Sattler. Warden Norton is also an overzealous, pious, and corrupt man. In prison, Andy develops a friendship with fellow inmate Red. Red is a con who smuggles contraband into the prison for inmates, at a cut, of course. As the film progresses, the prison administration discover Andy's usefulness. He was a hotshot banker on the outside. Soon enough, the warden starts using Andy for corrupt dealings. Andy is stuck in a never-ending cycle of violence, tragedy, victory, and torture. After 18 years, and by what seemed to be a miracle, Andy manages to escape from prison by tunneling out. He cleans out all the dirty money from the warden's accounts and exposes to the press and police the warden's corruption. It is a story of determination, friendship, and most of all, hope. Strangely, V and Andy are not only similar in character, but also in tastes and life stories. They are both strong-willed. They have both endured unjust imprisonment. They are well-read and cultured. They have free-flowing charm and grace despite their history and situation. They both have an admiration for the Count of Monte Cristo.
My favorite film, The Count of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo
That's Cristo, you dumb shit.
by Alexandre Dumas. Dumbass.
Dumbass. Dumas. You know what that's about? You'll like it. It's about a prison break.
Well, we ought to file that under educational too, oughtn't we?
They both work to overcome insurmountable odds. They understand the cathartic power of music. They have audacious long-term plans which they execute perfectly. And when you watch them in their respective movies, they are very consistent and their stories seem to develop along a straight line rather than a character arc. They exemplify the traits of a worthy villain, but channel these qualities towards a worthy goal, Thus, we can call them good villains. The major difference between the heroes and the villains of a story is that the villains don't change, but the heroes do. The villains are agents of change, and their rigidity is what makes them consistent in their actions and goal. Most of the time, this consistency leads to their downfall. Villains start out strong, having all the traits they will need to accomplish their goal, while the hero starts off as a shell of their future self. The hero has to go through a lot of character development so as to become a person strong enough to overcome the obstacles that stand in their way. To the hero, changing is a must or they fail. Villains stay consistent. Evey Hammond and Red are the sympathetic protagonists or heroes in V for Vendetta and Shawshank Redemption respectively. At first, they come off as sidekicks to the main characters, but they are the characters that we most resonate with. They are like us at the start of the year, when we are useless and setting up our New Year's resolutions, which we will habitually drop by mid-January. They are the people who desperately need the traits that the good villains have so as to change their lives. At first, they are resistant to this, but the sheer tenacity and influence of V and Andy forces our heroes to change.
Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It's got no use on the inside. You better get used to that idea.
Like Brooks did.
You're insane.
I dare do all that may become a man who dares more is none.
Evey and Red start off as complacent. They are stuck in a routine. They both don't have hope for the future. They look at the good villains as people who are too idealistic and lost in a dream world. Evey and Red think that their pessimism is a form of rationality. They let their passions wither away. But in the end, out of exposure to the good villains, they change. They go through a character arc, a hero's journey. They develop confidence, as brilliantly shown in how Evey walks down the street. At the start of the film, she walks timidly and seems easily frightened. Later in the film, after her character development, she is seen to be more confident, walking in the middle of the street, completely sure of herself. Similarly, we are introduced to a visibly nervous Red during his parole hearing. Later in the movie, we see a different Red, one who has taken charge of not only the room, but also of his destiny. Evey and Red go through pain, uncertainty, and challenges that force them to develop. They come out the other side as more complete human beings. They accomplish the hero's journey. This is the hero-villain relationship. This is what an antagonist or a good villain does to a protagonist. He forces them to change by revealing to them the path of self-actualization. You could argue that the most obvious thing is that Adam Sattler and the Warden are the villains. It doesn't take much to see that they are the bad guys. Their zeal is only matched by their corruption. They are confident in all their ill actions. They have a plan and work long term. Most of all, they are consistent. They display the typical traits that you would find in a traditional villain. But they are too far removed from the sympathetic hero. Their actions are not the ones that challenge our hero into changing. They are like the climate, and the good villains are the weather. The good villains are what directly affect the development and growth of our sympathetic hero. Good villains become unintentional positive mentors to our heroes and inspire them to change. Directly or indirectly, they take them through a hero's journey, a character arc. The heroes develop and change not because of a bad example they are trying to fight, but because of a good example they are trying to emulate. This is why these two stories resonate with a lot of people. Through Evey and Red, we get to see our small selves develop. We get to see a timid person develop courage. We get to see a complacent person develop hope. We get to see ourselves grow and find freedom. We get to find inspiration in that no matter our current standing, we can always raise ourselves to new heights. We can break the old life and create a new one. This is why those two stories have remained endlessly rewatchable films, because anybody can imagine being afraid. Anybody can imagine being stuck in a routine. And it's rare to meet people who can inspire us to break these old habits. V and Andy are definitely not the bad guys, and they are also not the good guys. They are good villains. Thank you for watching. If you'd like the transcript of this essay, kindly follow the link in the show notes. If you'd like to see more of these video essays, kindly subscribe and ring the notification bell. Feel free to also leave us a comment. All the best.